Hey, what's going on, good people? Welcome to Russ Can't Fly. Ready to handle my business. Let's go! Okay, so before I get over to the airport and handle my business, you know my stilo. Gotta give a subscriber shout out to my newest subscribers. So I want to give a subscriber shout out to Jade Lingo and to Sarah Elwell. Sarah, what's up, sis? So thank you guys for subscribing to the channel. It really means a lot to me. Without the subscribers, this journey wouldn't be as sweet and it wouldn't be as fruitful. So I thank you for joining me on this journey. All right, let's go fly no, I probably shouldn't say fly like an eagle because then YouTube will get mad. All right, let's go to the airport. Okay, so this flight video is going to be a little different because it never fails. When I pull it all together, that's when my camera equipment decides it definitely doesn't want to cooperate. So unfortunately, for whatever reason, one of my GoPros decided that it was not going to record any audio. So all the audio for this flight does not exist, which really sucks because I was looking forward to posting this video because this is the flight that is definitely a turning point. This is when it all came together. As I'm taking off for my practice cross country, we're doing the whole thing. So we're flying now, taking off from Wings Field to Morristown, KMMU. We're then going to fly from Morristown to Reading, and then Reading back to Wings. The idea is that these flights will take 2.5 hours to do because I need 5 hours of solo cross-country time. So this is hopefully, as I was taking this flight, the last dual cross-country I had to do before I did my solo. And man, it's too bad the audio isn't there because my radio work was on point, but also my nav log. So gonna pop around and show some various portions of this flight, and then just to show you that it went very well. The first thing I wanted to show you is that you can see me looking down at my nav log. My nav log was on point. I used the correct winds, both aloft. I had the right wind speed. I had the right corrections, my magnetic headings, everything was like really on point. So when I turned to go to fly this heading, the heading that I actually needed to fly was the heading that I needed. So that was the first thing that set this thing up to be such a good flight. And the thing that really sucks is that you can't hear my CFI not saying anything. That's the key. He was quiet for, a majority of this leg. Now the second thing you see me do, which really sets this flight up nice, is I am now using my checklist. So the first thing that I'm doing is I'm doing my climb checklist, and I'm looking at all of my different criteria, and it was just automatic. And so that was the second thing that made this go so well. So I'm only about 3-4 minutes in the flight, and already I'm on top of some things that I had missed in previous flights. So doing well so far. Okay, so you're gonna see me look out the windscreen, and I'm looking down at my nav log, and what I'm looking for is my first waypoint. Now my waypoints are almost kind of like mile markers on the ground, or features that tell me where I am and what I'm supposed to do when I get to that feature on the ground. So my first waypoint is right here, Willow Grove Airfield. It's no longer active. It used to be a military field for those who are not in the area. But it's a great waypoint because it's easy to see. The reason why this waypoint is so important is because it will let me know that once I get a beam that waypoint, I am now outside of that Class Bravo shelf for the Philadelphia International Airport, and I'll be able to climb up to my cruising altitude of 3,500 feet. Once I hit that, then that kicks in my next checklist. Okay, so trying to get myself adjusted here, looking at my nav log and coming up to my next waypoint. So the Delaware River was another one of my waypoints, and when I looked down at my nav log, when I looked down at the time that it took me to get there, voila, it was right where it needed to be. And so yeah, I was definitely feeling good about the fact that this was playing out pretty much the way I had planned. So yeah, feeling good about this. Doing good. Fly, Russ! And real quick before I take you to my next waypoint, I wanted to show you this particular part of the flight. Check my CFI out. He's chilling. See, this is why I knew it was going so well. My man had kind of put his seat back. I mean, he really was just watching me fly. And I really didn't appreciate what was happening until later. I think I looked over at him and I saw that, you know, he was really just looking out the window. He would make a comment every now and then. And I'm like, my man is just, you know, on a flight. And I am really doing this flight on my own. And so that felt really good. Once I saw that, it just kind of all clicked for me. And I thought, okay, I get what's going on. I'm ahead of the plane. I'm flying. I know I'm getting ready to get to my next waypoint, and just do the thing, Russ. Okay, so I'm flying along, looking at my nav log. I'm looking out at the windscreen, and I'm coming up on a very important waypoint. Now, my next waypoint is Solberg Airport, and the reason why this waypoint was so important is because there's a couple things that are going to happen once I'm being this waypoint. First, I'm going to descend from 3,500 feet to 2,500 feet. The reason why I'm doing that is because just before I get past Solberg, there's another Class Bravo airspace. What that means is it's an airspace that unless I am cleared by the tower, I can't fly in. So since I'm flying Visual Flight Rules or VFR, there's no reason for me to try to enter that airspace. I can just go down and go below it. So I begin to descend, and because of the descent, I am on my checklist. And you can see, pull my checklist out, and I'm doing my checklist, and my CFI is looking out the window and flying with me, and I'm doing my thing. The other reason why this waypoint was so necessary to make sure that I found and acknowledged and prepared for the descent, it's also set me up for, as I get closer to Morristown Airport, the traffic pattern altitude, or the altitude that you fly around the airport, I need to be closer to it so that as I get closer to Morristown, I'm able to get to TPA pretty easily. So, and I was on it. Picked up everything, found the waypoint, descended, did my descent checklist, so I was handling my business. So after I hit that checkpoint, this next one is an interesting one. So this is where I'm actually not using an airport for a waypoint, but this interchange, this 78-287 interchange is pretty important, because then this lets me know that I'm about 15 nautical miles from the airport. And so I'll need to start preparing, make sure that I've listened to the ATIS and that I have caught the information that I need there so that when I contact Morristown Tower, I can give them the ATIS information that I have to make sure that I have current winds and that kind of stuff. So got that, got my ATIS, didn't have to, my CFI didn't have to say anything. I think it was like Information Bravo or something like that. And I was ready to go. And I had another 5 nautical miles before I called Tower to set up my inbound landing for, I think, runway 31. I was doing it. I was handling it. Okay, so I'm getting ready to come into a landing, but here's what really sucks about what I wasn't able to show you. So I got about 10 miles out from Morristown Airport. I called the tower. They called me back. I set up my landing perfectly, or what I was going to do when I was coming in. I was able to get down the traffic pattern altitude. I was able to fly downwind. I called tower on the midfield downwind portion of my flight, and I was able to line up. He told me to extend my downwind, which means when I was flying parallel to the runway, he would call my base. About 5 minutes past the numbers, he called my base. I turned base, I turned final, and here I am coming in for a landing. And I did that all on my own. My CFI had to give me very little input. So this landing, although inconsequential, because actually I did a pretty decent landing, but getting here was so nice because I did it on my own. So then after all of the stuff with the tower, I'm coming in for a landing, and I don't know where I got runway 31 from. I'm actually coming in on runway 5. But after all of the conversation with tower and getting myself set up, I put in my notches of flaps correctly, and I did a very nice landing. A lot of this work was done on my own with very little input from my CFI. And so actually when we touched down with the landing, he was like, nice, that was nice. And so with that little input let me know that I was on track. All right, so after this we taxied back. I was talking to tower. I then had to switch to ground, and ground got me back to the runway, and we taxied off, and we took off from runway 5 back out to head to my next leg. So what was cool after that, I got my clearance from tower. They gave me clear to take off, and I didn't need all of runway 5 because it's pretty long, so we kind of took off, kind of like 3/4 of the way down the runway. And so I'm taking off from runway 5 from Morristown, and I'm on my way to Reading Airport. And all I know is I gotta just do all of the same things that I did on that first leg from Wings to Morristown, and I should be good to go. What's amazing is this flight was so good, and the good Lord was just smiling down on me on this day. Wouldn't you know it, the audio decided to actually started to work again. Everything was just coming and working in my favor, I tell you. So, yes, we have audio! All right, let's get back to the flight.
Morristown ground, 91 Quebec Sierra, taxiing back to runway 5 for a VFR departure to the west.
Cessna 91 Quebec Sierra, are you able to accept an intersection departure via Echo, distance remaining 4,900?
Yep. Affirmative for 91 Quebec Sierra.
Quebec Sierra, runway 5 at Echo, taxi via Alpha, cross runway 31 at Alpha.
Alright, taxi to runway 5 via Alpha, cross at 31 at Alpha, 91 Quebec Sierra. Morristown Tower, 91 Quebec Sierra, VFR departure, runway 5 to the west.
We're 91 Quebec Sierra, Morristown Tower, hold for runway 5.
Holding short runway 5, 901 Quebec Sierra.
170 contact. Actually, stand by. What's your park?
I will stand by 170.
170, what's your park?
With West Tie Downs 170.
170, you can taxi with me via Bravo. Have a good day, sir.
Taxi West Tie Downs with you via Bravo 170. Thanks.
Alright, number 1 Quebec Sierra, runway 5, clear for takeoff on course approved.
901 Quebec Sierra, clear for takeoff runway 5, on course 901 Quebec Sierra.
So as you can see, my radio comms are getting a lot better. I'm still a little hesitant. I'm still a little slow. Sometimes I repeat things that I don't need to repeat. But as you can see, I mean, my comms were getting better. And so that's why I'm so glad the audio decided to start working again, because this is what made it magical. And so hopefully I'll cut the audio where I do something that I've never done before. And it worked. So let's go to that portion of the flight. Then I'm going to do one other thing, and then we'll call this cross country success.
Quebec Sierra, frequency change, frequency.
Frequency change approved, 901 Quebec Sierra. Thank you for your help.
So as I'm going through the video and through the editing process, it looks like some wire must have been loose or something like that, because the audio then ends up going out. The thing that I wanted to show you guys, or have you hear, is I called Allentown Approach and actually ended up getting flight following to Reading Airport. And, you know, it was just so cool because, you know, I had to give them who I was, where I was, and where I was going. And I actually did it pretty smoothly. I was able to tell them I was 901 Quebec Sierra. I was at flight level 3,500. I was just overflying the reservoir, which is actually a waypoint that he would know, and that I was going to Reading. And he gave me a transponder or a squawk code, and I flew on my merry way. I hit my checklist, and I got to Reading, and I landed. So it was fantastic. So I'll show you that landing, and then we'll wrap this up. But man, this was such a good flight. I learned a lot. I did well, and like I said, I am on my way. So as I'm coming in for a landing at Reading Airport, at this point I have flown for about 2 hours, maybe 2 hours and 5 minutes at this point, and I don't feel as overwhelmed and as completely exhausted as I normally do. By the time I get to Reading on most flights, usually I'm just like, okay, dude, I'm done. Just fly me home. Let me look out the window. But no, when I landed at Reading, I had a really, really good landing, and I was ready to go. I had one flub as I was coming off the runway, because I was still trying to get the taxi stuff from ground. You know, they'll say taxi Alpha, Beta, Delta, Zeta, and it's like, oh my gosh, what? You know, so definitely need to get a little bit better at that. But overall, you know, as I took off from here, I got flight following from Philadelphia Approach. They led me right into Wings. I landed at Wings, and my CFI was just like, bro, you got it. And it was just such a good feeling. It was like being a kid at Christmas. So anyway, thank you for taking this flight with me. It was fantastic. You know what? I am really starting to get excited. That flight went so well. Now, I hate to jinx anything by getting too cocky too quick, but I think the very next flight, I'm pretty sure I'm going to be doing my cross country solo. I was hitting everything I needed to do. I was working with my checklist. I was finding all of my waypoints. I was keeping my altitude. My radio communications were good, even though you couldn't hear them because of the stupid camera. But at any rate, that flight, I felt like Russ was actually being a pilot. Like I could have been there by myself and have done that flight. So fingers crossed, I think it's time for me to do my first cross-country solo. So we'll see. I think my CFI was pretty pleased. He didn't talk a lot during the flight. that's usually a good indication that, hey, it's time to take it to the next level. So I'm definitely getting excited, man. I really feel this thing coming together and it all happening. So anyway, I've blathered on enough. Thank you again for joining me on this flight. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you have not subscribed to the channel, I would be most appreciative if you would do so. Thank you for the support thus far. Russ can fly. Russ Kid, I'm out. Let's fly.